Let's get into this now. South Africa is marking National Water Month this March, a campaign led by the Department of Water and Sanitation to highlight the urgent need for sustainable water management and equitable access to clean water. The program comes as the country faces growing water supply challenges caused by aging infrastructure, rising demand, climate pressures, as well as pollution. Now, this year's theme, Water and Gender, where water flows, equality grows, places women and girls at the center of water solutions and decision-making. It also coincides with Human Rights Month and the global commemoration of World Water Day on the 22nd of March. Government has already declared water supply challenges a national crisis, with President Cyril Ramaphosa establishing a National Water Crisis Committee to coordinate interventions. All right, well, to unpack this further, we are now joined by Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, Mr. David Mahlobo. A very good afternoon to you, Deputy Minister. South Africans, of course, are hearing increasingly these stark warnings about the state of our water systems. When you look at the data across the country, be it infrastructure failures, supply disruptions, I want us to talk about the seriousness of the situation. I mean, the numbers are staggering. Government estimating, around 47% of municipal water lost through leaks only.
No, thank you so much, Unati, and a happy International Women's Day. And to Karen, as we celebrate the contribution of women in economics, politics, culture, but also looking at the challenges we face. In South Africa, we should appreciate that His Excellency, the President, has looked at the matter as a serious matter and classified it as a national crisis that will require a response at the highest level of the land. As the Ministry of Water and Sanitation, there are issues that we can call them immediate issues, medium-term and long-term issues that must be resolved, including the issues of stabilizing local government, because the data still indicate, Unati, that when it comes to water security, whether the country will run out of water or not, we are safe as a country, because our water system is in the balance, in as much as we must admit that there are areas of localized deficit. But equally on water security, major infrastructure work around major delayed projects, they are all back online, whether in the Western Cape, your Glen Williams, KwaZulu-Natal, Lower Umkomazi, Upper Umkomazi, you look at Lesotho and many of them. And your statistics are correct. One of our biggest challenges, these municipalities, a number of them that are water services authorities, are struggling. The major decision we've made, while they are having capacity problems, we've directed them right now to appoint water services providers of their own choice, whether a municipality that has a capacity, a water board, whether a private entity in a form of concession, just to come in, bring their own expertise in terms of the technologies, individuals, including their monies that are there with the balance sheet.
Yeah.
It is an important development to say, let's do it.
All right.
The second component, most of the metros, Unati, are struggling. Treasury has put about 54 billion rand aside. We're all putting at their disposal trading entities where they will be able to get this grant from National Treasury to do those issues. On our side, working with the COCTA and MISA, we are bringing retired experts. In other words, all our engineers, our scientists and project managers to come and help, because there is a crisis in a number of these municipalities.
Yeah. Deputy Minister, can I come in there? I don't want us to miss a lot. You've mentioned quite a number of these challenges that we are aware of, because you have also been holding these press, conferences with the minister, together with the minister. I want to just touch on, the national crisis component. I mean, the president has now, of course, called for that establishment of the National Water Crisis Committee. I want us to talk about the tangible interventions, not plans on paper, but the actions, South Africans should begin seeing on the ground this year. How far are you in terms of those particular actions? I hear you speaking about bringing in retired experts, etc. What has been done to date since that establishment?
One of the things that has happened, you will recall that before the president declared this matter as a national crisis, we were to look at areas that have problems. One of those major cities was eThekwini. Last week, we were there with His Excellency, the President. We brought in Umngeni Uthukela Water Board to help with the issue of the non-revenue water that was causing a lot of problems in eThekwini. And equally, we brought a lot of expertise, our Director General managing the task team around water and intervention. The stabilization at eThekwini around the issues of water has improved, but we have also thrown in the issues of the private sector to help with them. Those are some of the issues that currently at eThekwini we have done. When it comes to Johannesburg, you will recall that Johannesburg, they recently held the G20 summit. We're able to bring all our expertise, Rand Water, supporting them, supporting Johannesburg Water. But there's been a lapse, like you know that recently there have been a lot of these particular challenges. One of the biggest issues that we need to address, Unat, is that the system remains vulnerable. In other words, the pipes are going to break. There's going to be leaks. But the major issue that government is doing is to say, let's have a response team. The response team is to bring experts, engineers that have been already mobilized with MISA and ourselves, but also Rand Water is coming in, our entities that have capacity. But you can have these engineers and experts, but if you don't have the tools of trade, you don't have the warehouse that if there are valves that have a problem, you're able to replace them on time. When there are old pipes that have a problem, you're able to take them out. What we're actually bringing those resources is to be able to do that, including the ring fencing of those particular finances. Those are the immediate issues that we are doing in a number of areas. Yeah. But we don't want to concentrate on towns and cities and leave rural communities. In rural communities, we're looking at community water supply, different sources like the drilling of borehole in terms of groundwater. 2 days ago, myself and the minister were in the part of Bronkhorstspruit, somewhere next to Gwandebele, where we are actually working with Rand Water and other entities and private sector, just to give rural communities a rural community water supply scheme.
Yeah, I mean, because you hear of communities, whether it's rural or urban areas, where people haven't had sustainable water supply for over 20 years. I want to go back to the point that you raised in terms of metros struggling, earmarking 54 billion rands, to be spent or set aside in some of those challenges. We heard, of course, in recent weeks, that the fixing of the system could cost more than 400 billion rand. I mean, is the country realistically investing enough to reverse decades of under-maintenance, or are we simply here, Deputy Minister, managing decline at this point?
We have been caught up because of the decisions we have not made in the past. One of the decisions was to ensure that the growth in population and the GDP must be equivalent and ahead of the curve in terms of investment in infrastructure. One of the biggest issues is that there is an inadequate financing to deal with the water challenges that are faced by the 105 municipalities. But equally, there is a lack of discipline by leadership. We insist that at the end of this month, we are going to reconvene all these municipalities. We made decisions of non-negotiables. They were supposed to ring-fence the budget. They sell water to you and me. That money that comes from you and me for water sales, it must be sent back to water infrastructure, whether for paying off their creditors, whether replacement of infrastructure. That's the discipline we're insisting on them, and including the grants we give them. There is no need that these grants, whether they are water-related grants that are amounting to 61 billion rands and annum, 158 billion rands over the next 3 years that the president has announced. That money, which is traditional financing, must be used appropriately, Unati. And if we do that, then there are these other infrastructure funding capabilities in terms of blended finance. You work with National Treasurer, the budget facility. Then you go to the issues of going to private sector. In certain instances, the money will never be there. Municipalities must not shy away to go through concession, bring a private company like we did in Nelspruit. There's issues of Slulumanzi, Go to Stenga in Palito, them, we have your Caesar Water. They are doing a very, very good job. And that infrastructure, after some years of concession, it will go back to the municipality. But citizens and business will be guaranteed issues of access to water.
And I want to stay with that, thought process of funding, the fact that we may not be adequately funding municipalities. You mentioned 105. But in the event where municipalities are capacitated, from a funding perspective especially, there are, of course, concerns of criminality. I mean, government has warned of criminal charges against officials who fail to deliver water services to those that need it and deserve it. So how far is national government at this stage, prepared to enforce accountability where municipalities are simply failing? We know that there are municipalities that are failing. And in fact, there have been calls that, legal processes should be instituted against them. Will we see, Deputy Minister, convictions here in this case?
We should probably put it in the context. The issue around municipalities being brought to book the senior officials, it has everything to deal with the issues of water pollution, impacting on the quality of water, because pollution must stop. And those that are impacting, they've been taken to court. A number of cases have been opened. Municipalities are being fined about 300 million in Ermelo. You look at Emalahleni, fined more than 600 million. But what are we doing? While these municipalities are struggling, and we're supporting them in terms of 139, Section 154 of the Constitution and 63, we have taken one decision. If you don't spend your money, we will take away your direct grant to use that particular grant so that citizens cannot be punished. There are a number of these municipalities where we have converted direct grants into indirect grants, and as national government, we are appointing the implementing agent and using our own state companies like the water boards to do the implementation. That is one clear intervention. The second intervention is that these municipalities cannot continue to be water services authority and water services provider when they don't do their job. And in the immediate term, that's why the issues of performance-based contract and operating license, when you don't perform as a WSP, we should be able to withdraw that particular aspect. But more importantly, we will not mind working with National Treasurer and COGTA, even if it's a metro, just to have a government take over, because the reason why President has made that particular point that he will chair these things, we have reached a stage that in as much as there's an intergovernmental relations, national government will not be able to say it's your responsibility. We'll take over, sort out the issue of water provision as national government, working with those particular provinces. At a particular point, while we're working in building the capacity in municipalities, but the water must flow to communities and business must thrive, and water must not become an impediment, because in a country with high levels of unemployment and poverty, water cannot be at the center of causing those challenges.
And, Deputy Minister, we haven't even talked about, just the wastewater treatment plants. We know, of course, this month we will be focusing at all angles, but I want to stay on that component of criminality. Yesterday, we were speaking to the SIU as well as the NPA in terms of, investigating where there is corruption. Another big factor and concern is water mafias and water sabotage, which has emerged in recent briefings. It's a criminal interference in those infrastructure projects. And in some cases, municipal members have also been linked to these water mafias. What have you been able to uncover thus far, in as far as that is concerned?
One of the biggest achievements that has happened, the minister has launched a water and sanitation anti-corruption forum in a form of the Fusion Center, where all the law enforcement agencies are already there, your SIU, the NPA, the Hawks. It's a very important intervention. You know that there are a number of people that have been killed in the water sector. There are a number of investigations that has happened in municipalities, in our own department, including the municipalities. A number of those issues, whether Guyana, they are in court. Very, very good approach working with the law enforcement agencies. Equally, there's an attack and vandalism of infrastructure. in the main, by those people who are doing water tankering, but at the very same time, the illegal miners that are doing zamazamas that are doing that, and working with the law enforcement agencies. The president has an infrastructure ministerial committee that is led by the police on the attack on critical infrastructure that includes electricity and water, who are part of that particular aspect. The issues of security plans around infrastructure for water has been increased because we've been wasting a lot of money actually buying more issues of security instead of investing the money in terms of dealing with the issues of water delivery. But we must remove the elements that causes this corruption. One of the biggest elements is the water tankering that has been one of our biggest source. It must be a temporary measure, not a permanent measure. But to remove it as part of the risk, you insource it because they work with officials internally. They deal with the valves there, they destroy the infrastructure, but it's also erratic communities, they don't get water. The second component is procurement. One of the biggest issues, some projects are not done on time, money goes back to treasury, because certain leaders at local government level, they don't agree who must get this particular tender. And then others, they come and disrupt this particular project. We've improved on issues of social facilitation and how these opportunities must be dealt with, including dealing with the issues of people demanding protection fees, and many projects remain incomplete. That is the biggest fight, working with communities, including the NGOs, the traditional leaders, so that our projects are not actually hampered by this scourge of corruption and also the issues of mafias that are interfering.
Absolutely. So many angles to this particular crisis, Deputy Minister. I think we all agree on that. But thank you so much. That's all the time we have for you this afternoon. Really do appreciate your time, Deputy Minister there of Water and Sanitation, David Mahlobo.